Good morning, everyone. Today we start our, how do they say, challenge and journey discovering how to deal with difficult conversations. Just to give you a little bit of explanation what was going to happen here this week. This week I'm going to share with you some of the key points about dealing with difficult conversations, and I have selected some questions based on the research that I have been doing for the past year, plus questions that people have sent to me, questions that based on difficult situations, conversations they had to face. And throughout this week, up to Monday next week, I will try my best to answer as many questions as possible. But this will lead to our workshop next Monday 29th, when then not only I'll be answering questions, but I also taking you through the path of how you can develop these skills to deal with difficult conversation. The first thing here for you to understand today, I want to cover 3 points that you will find in every situation when you have to deal with difficult conversations. The first one is communication. If you know me by now, I am the communication architect. So I will always go back to this point. Why? Because I believe communication is key for every situation that we have, every interaction we have with people, especially when we are talking about difficult conversations. So I cannot stress enough the need of mastering, of honing in communication skills. We all have to understand how we communicate in the first place. Are we more a proactive communicator, meaning you are someone that are more towards solutions when you communicate with someone? You have a more positive approach when you are presented with some challenges, or you are a kind of person that you're more in the reactive mode. You are more reactive communicator type, meaning you are impulsive. You don't allow yourself time to reflect, to think before you say something. So these all are factors that are determinant in how successful you will be able to deal with difficult conversations. And not only difficult conversations, to any encounter in your life that you are communicating with people. So communication is the number one. And I will repeat this over and over because I will never, it's never enough to stress it. The second one is the active listening. Active listening to all sides of the story in this situation that we are here talking about difficult conversations is even more important because we all perceive the world from a different perspective, metaphorically and literally, physically. Because think about, if I put an object between us here, an object here, I see the object different from you do because we are both in a different position. So our perspective, our vision from the of this object is different. So it's the same is you can apply as a metaphor for our communication. When people say something to us, depending on where we are standing, and that means on the sense of your emotional state at that moment, or your mood at the moment, or some references you have about that topic in that moment in time, you will respond in a different way. So, therefore, active listening is key is mandatory actually to be able to deal with difficult conversations. But not only that, and I repeat, active listening is important for any conversation. Nowadays, we are in this fast pace of behavior. We are not allowing ourselves time to listen, to receive the information, to internalize the information, and then to respond. We are in this fast ping pong. I say something and you immediately react. And that can lead to enormous misunderstandings, enormous conflicts that can be prevented if we become more present and if we start listening more actively. And the third one is we should, well, I don't like to say should, erase it. It's important that we address conflicts promptly. However, going back to what I just said, it doesn't mean that you have to react immediately. There's a difference there. You have to address conflicts promptly because in most cases, people tend to push conflicts away, deny conflicts, avoid conflicts with the hope that they will somehow disappear or that someone will take over that, or I don't want to get involved. The important thing here is, especially if you are in leading positions, that you address conflicts promptly in the sense that acknowledge that you are aware that there is a conflict happening, but allow yourself time to prepare, to collect the information necessary for you to sit down with your team or with your manager, superiors, to then say, let's talk about this conflict. I would never suggest you to react immediately. That's not what I'm talking about. And something people sometimes misunderstand because they believe they have promptly to react to a difficult situation. Because if you think about, we are human beings and we don't like conflicts naturally. It's uncomfortable, it's distressing. There's many things that works not only in our mind but in our body when we are facing conflict. So it's a very uncomfortable situation to be in. It's normal that we try to avoid it. However, especially when you're in leading position, especially when you are parenting your children, teenagers specifically. I have received lots of questions on how to deal with conflicts with teenagers, which I will address. And you have to acknowledge first, because it's important that the person there that is in this situation of conflict, the people involved in the conflict, know that you were aware of, that you're not ignoring, but you will take your time to address it. But it's not, don't take too much time. Acknowledge and address promptly means acknowledge and then set a date to talk about the issue in question. So for today, I want to leave on these 3 points, because these 3 points will be, in a way, the foundation, the 3 pillars that we will all fall back into when dealing with these different situations, the different possible conflicts or difficult conversations. So I repeat here, every time when dealing with difficult conversations, the first thing is communication. Communication is key. You really need to learn to assess, to master your own communication skills, to understand what kind of communicator you are, because these all will determine your way of dealing with the situation. And not only that, how much you have to adapt to the context to be able to be heard by the others. The second, active listening. Most of us, me included, are poor active listeners. I have been working on that for my past 10 years, and this is still a challenge, and I have no problem to admit that, but I'm aware of it. I'm aware of when I am in a conversation with someone, in a dialogue, when I drift away. And I'm aware and I can bring myself back. Most people can't. And this is something that is a skill that needs to be learned, especially if you're dealing with difficult conversations and conflicts. And the third, don't avoid conflicts. Don't avoid difficult conversations. Don't deny they exist. Let's talk about and learn how to face them head on. And for now, this is my message for you. And let's continue this conversation tomorrow.